Hey game developers, and welcome back to the C# Fundamentals for Unity course. I'm Bilal from Zenfinity.net, and in this one we're going to be talking about delegates. But before we begin, if you want to see the previous episode, which is about lists here, then make sure to hit the card in the top right now. Otherwise, you can go ahead and follow along with me. So a delegate is basically a way of generically referencing a function type, right? Kind of like an interface. We can have a delegate, and then we can kind of follow the same signature of that delegate, and then any function with the same signature, as in return type, parameters, and yeah, just those two, then we can use that in the same context as anything that refers to that delegate, right? So if that doesn't really make any sense yet, it will make sense in a second. I'm going to just visualize that for you. So why don't we go ahead and get started. So I'm deleting all the old code. And now what I'm going to do is just create a delegate here, and it's going to be called perform action, right? So private delegate void perform action, right? So let's make two perform action types. Private void perform. I don't know. What's the kind of let's say print something, right? And so what this will do is literally print something. So console.writeLine something. Okay, so now we can use this print something just like a normal function. And notice that it doesn't have anywhere that it's a type of perform action, because it doesn't really matter. It's not technically a type of it, but it follows the same signature, which means we can use it as this type. So why don't we go ahead and make a second one that will say print nothing. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is create a variable that will store a perform action. So private perform action, Right, okay, so now what I'm going to show you is how this kind of polymorphism effect can work, right? So let's do perform action equals, and these need to be static, sorry about that. Static, and static. Okay, so now what we're going to do is set it equal to print nothing. Okay, and notice no compiler error because same signature, but if I were to change this to like an int, yellow, then yeah, we get an error because it doesn't match that delegate. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove that. And now what we're going to do is set it equal to print something. And now we're going to call that function, right? So perform action and call it. So we're calling an attribute, a little bit weird, but just remember that that is something that makes perfect sense because it has a perform action stored in it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and we can see what happens, and it prints something, of course, because we put print something delegate in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same for print something, and you can obviously guess what this is going to do. Or sorry, I think we did print nothing last time. Anyway, yeah, you can already guess what this is going to do. So just print nothing, and of course that is what it does. Okay, so why don't we do something a little bit more interesting, right? So why don't we make a function instead of an attribute that will take a perform action and be able to print it just like that, right? Okay, so let's do a private static perform, let's say call perform action. And so this is going to take a perform action to call. And all this is going to do, oh, and I forgot the whole void type. Why would you need a return type? Okay, so this is going to do action to call, actually just call it like that. Okay, and so what we're going to do is call perform action, and then we're going to pass it a print something here. Boom. Notice how I'm not calling print something. If I were to do this, this would be calling it. So beginners tend to get this confused, right? When you have the parentheses at the end, you're saying, I want to call this function. When you don't have them, you're saying, I want to refer to this function. So if I were doing this, that would mean I want the return value to be passed into call perform action. But if I do this, I want print something to be passed into call perform action. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, so what this is going to do is obviously just print something. Okay, and I won't even show you the example for nothing because you can of course see that it's going to do the same exact thing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually make something more interesting, right? So we're going to make this delegate actually, I guess, have more of a purpose. And by that I mean it's going to be used generically so that we can actually refer to multiple string functions, right? So let's call this perform string action. String action. Okay, and now what we're going to do is make this return string. This will say add something to end of string. And this will say add nothing to end of string. Okay, string to append. And we'll do that again. Okay, and this will return string. And this will return string. And it will also have a string parameter. String to append. Okay, so that's all we need to do for this. Now we just need to make sure that we can actually return a string and we actually do append something to the end for it. Okay, so return string to append plus something. And then we'll do the same thing for nothing here. Okay, so I'll replace that. Okay, so string to append plus nothing and string to append plus something are returned. So now what we want to do is use our call perform string action here to use perform string action and call it, and then we'll use also a string. Let's string to append again, right? So what we're going to do is pass in string to append, and we're going to return action to call. So, you can guess this is going to do its whole, let's replace that void, its whole go through the function, and then, find this, and then it'll hit the return, and then, and so on. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and use this? So add something to end of string and call perform string action. And at the end here, I'll say, I am saying, put a space, and then, so yeah, it'll say I am saying something or I am saying nothing, right? So let's go ahead and hit start. And we didn't print it. So console.writeLine will, of course, print to the console. Okay, I'm going to hit start. And it says, I am saying something. The S is capitalized. We're missing a period, so bear with me. But it does do exactly what we want it to do. So we're going to do the same thing with the nothing. Okay, and notice how I can just do that by copying this, pasting it here. Then I will start again. And now it says, I'm saying nothing. Again, the English syntax is completely wrong, but that is exactly how we programmed it. So that is actually kind of everything that I want to show you with delegates. Now the purpose for that was, again, we're using this delegate to generalize for a set of functions something to do, right? So these are all perform string actions, though they're not explicitly said to be. But the fact that they have the same signature as the delegate means that in the context of a parameter or a variable of this type, we can use that function or any function of the same signature as the delegate in the same context. So in this case, we were able to pass add nothing to end of string and add something to end of string as perform string actions. Even if I hover over this, you can see it's a perform string action that's being passed there. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. If you want to check out the entire playlist, hit the top right now. Otherwise, I will see you in the next episode, and have a good day.